Hey VC, Big Star 1000 with installment 98 of Revolutions, an ongoing series in which I showcase what I've been playing in the past few days. Always about 20 records. Sometimes I play more, but I think 20 is a good amount of records to show in one video, and especially to talk about. It's very it's sort of demanding to actually have to think of worthwhile things to say about records. I never ever make a video you know, talking randomly about records. I sort of think about it before I do it, so that you don't waste your time watching this. Today is Saturday morning. It's a nice time to try and be articulate about records. The first record that I want to show you is the one I was just playing just then. It is the amazing Forest Flower by Charles Lloyd, the Charles Lloyd Quartet, which comprises of Keith Jarrett on piano, Jack DeJohnette on drums, and Cecil McBee on bass, and obviously Charles Lloyd is on sax and flute. This is, in my opinion, a must-have jazz record. It's amazing. It's a beautiful US pressing on Atlantic. It feels hard as nails, It's a beautiful object, like as an object, but it sounds fantastic. I would highly recommend this this journey of post-bop, little bit free at times, from 1967, recorded live in Monterey. But you can't really tell it's live, really. I mean, only when you hear the band being introduced and people clapping at the end, you know it's live. But otherwise, the recording is, it's like being in a studio, really. Another very, very highly recommended record in the jazz canon would be this record here, Capra Black by Billy Harper, which originally came out on Strata East. But this is a Pure Pleasure reissue, which I got a couple of years ago, maybe. I don't know, I can't remember, but it's always a treat to revisit. Now, Pure Pleasure do such a great job with the reissues. I would buy any reissue, but I've got about 4 or 5 of them. Very, very, very highly recommended reissue label from England. If you see something on Pure Pleasure and you hesitate, don't hesitate. The pressings are flawless, really. And a case in point is this one. Capra Black obviously is a free avant-garde jazz record. It's brilliant, really. Very energetic and frantic, kind of, and at times very soulful. So this was recorded in 1973. And features also a choir of voices. Spiritual jazz often does. And we've got Reggie Workman on bass, Julian Priester from the Headhunters on trombone, Billy Cobham on drums, Jimmy Owens on trumpet. I was talking about Jimmy Owens a few revolutions back with his solo record, which I really like. Very, very highly recommended, Capra Black. My favorite musician of all time is probably, not just probably, is Mr. Serge Gainsbourg. And this is his second concept album, L'Homme à tête de chou. His first concept album happens to be my all-time favorite record, Histoire de Melody Nelson. And this is an album from 1976, which the concept is kind of, it's typically Gainsbourg is based around, sex mostly, because he was obsessed, really. But it's a story of a journalist who meets a hairdressing girl and a hairdresser, and he falls in love with her, and he just totally ruins his life for her, like loses everything, and starts taking credits everywhere, and in the end kills her with a fire extinguisher. That's the whole story potted there. It's a fantastic album, especially musically speaking. Some of it is very, very funky, very I highly recommend that you take a listen to, for example, Flash Forward. The song called Flash Forward. I think it's the funkiest Gainsbourg has ever been. It's sort of this driving, synthy kind of beat. It's amazing. But the true masterpiece of this record is a song called Variation sur Marie-Lou. And Variation sur Marie-Lou will appeal to French speakers because it's Gainsbourg's use of words, which is amazing. Even if you don't understand French, you listen to the musicality of the words that he uses. The alliterations. That's a song that's like a workshop in alliteration. It's brilliant. So yeah, I love L'Homme à tête de chou. It's one of my favorite records, and I highly recommend it. Here's another French record, lesser known French record, Antoine Thomé, Innocence. Antoine Thomé is not exactly a household name in France, although he is more well known these days as a actor and a voice actor. I was reading on Wikipedia because I was talking to a friend and he said, "Oh, what happened to this guy?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's look it up." And so I looked it up, and in fact, he's done a lot of voice acting. Because in France, every American or English language movie is dubbed into French, which is stupid. I mean, they should just put subtitles. I think are people too stupid to read subtitles? I don't know. But anyway, this guy dubs people like Brad Pitt into French, and he's been an actor as well. But back in 1979, when he made this, that was his second album. I've also got his first album, which is on the Moshe Naim label. He made some really, really amazing records that fuse sort of like Moroccan, also North African and Balkan music with French folk. And what he does is he sings in his own invented language. And he's kind of like the spiritual son of Henri Texier, in the sense of what the music sounds like. Like if you're familiar with the Henri Texier records, it's got this kind of like folk jazz undertone. The vocals are similar-ish, except that he sings with sort of like invented lyrics. This is a beautiful album, not very hard to get, not expensive. And if you're a French viewer of mine, I know there's two or three of you who always comment on my videos. I know, I can't remember because I don't know your first names. That's the problem. You've got channel names, but you would really, really love this. This is amazing. I think you can get it in France quite easily. An absolute masterpiece of spiritual jazz is The Elements by Joe Henderson. With a killer lineup. Joe Henderson on tenor sax, alto, flute, Alice Coltrane on piano and harp and so on, Michael White on violin, Ken Nash on congas and percussion, and Charlie Hayden on bass. This is a monster record, really. I mean, it's such a great record. It's mind-blowing. It's from '74 on Milestone. This is a promo press of it, which is nice to have, with a stupid cut corner. No, that's fine. I don't mind. Very highly recommended spiritual jazz records. Super, 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 super record. I mean, in every way. Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. A shout out to my friend Anders in Stockholm. Many years ago, almost 10 years ago, sent me this this record from Sweden. the great Interstellar Space on Impulse by John Coltrane. It's basically a duo record. It's John Coltrane and Rashid Ali playing with each other. It's very squonky free jazz. Obviously, as there's no bass and no piano and just sax and drums, the interplay between the two is amazing. But it's not a record that you could play just like every day casually. You have to concentrate. This is a you know, stop the fuck what you're doing at the moment and listen to me kind of record. It's a fantastic record, and Enders, if you're watching this, I still have this record and I still treasure it and I still love it. 1974 on ABC Impulse. Here's a record that I've rarely seen in the VC, if ever, rather. And I believe it's a fabulous record, which is very underrated. Charles Earland, Leaving This Planet. It's a double LP. And someone found the need to actually graffiti this very elegantly. It's everywhere, there at the back, in the middle as well. But I don't really care because it's pristine. The record is beautiful. It is on Prestige, and even the records are autographed by Mr. Bill, whatever his name is, Bill Taylor, no? Bill Porter, Bill Porter. And I did look to see if a Bill Porter played on this, but no Bill Porter plays on this. It's just a guy who thought, this is my record, and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows this is my record. This is an amazing record. Charles Earland is on organ, and is a great organist. I mean, he's very underrated, but you know, people always talk about people like Larry Young or or Jimmy Smith or whatever. But Charles Earland is fantastic. Freddie Hubbard, Joe Henderson. We were talking about Joe Henderson a second ago. Eddie Henderson, who also made an amazing record on Milestone. Harvey Mason on bass. I suggest you take a listen to a track called Van J. It's the second last track, and I must say this track wasn't. It's not the track that I noticed straight away, but I was listening to Floating Points talking about this record, and that's, he said, when I DJ, I always put the track on, and I thought I'll just concentrate to what he says, and he's right. You know, this is why I love Floating Points. I love Floating Points. This is a great French jazz record. Monk Forever. Yoshko Sefer, Sigrid Kessler, with François Micheli and Peter Gritz. So this is basically a kind of avant-garde take-ish of Monk songs by this quartet. And Yoshko Sefer is what used to be Magma, and then he formed a band called, well, he was in a band called Zao, French Zoul band. Very, you know, if you're into French prog, you would know Zao. And then he went and he made his own records, kind of like really weird jazz fusion, Zoul, kind of, you know, dark territory, you know. And Siegfried Kessler is a fantastic electric piano, you know, player. So some of his records, like what's the record with the animal? I think it's just called Animals. I've got it as well. Also on Moshe Naim. Fantastic records, like really funky, kind of, you know, a little bit free. But this is great. These are renditions of Monk songs: The Brilliant Corner, Monk's Mood, Round Midnight, Panonica. So the whole of this is composed by Monk, and they're really great interpretation. Slightly off kilter, slightly off center, but some of them are very melodic. Amazing electronic record by Maud Garson. The name escaped me almost. This, you know, Plantasia. So this was a record design. It was given free, I think, in a shop in LA you'd buy plants and you get this with the record, and it was supposed to you know, help your plants grow. It's got some there. Play this and they listen to this and oh wow, amazing, I can grow now. Now really it's one of the best synth records ever, and this reissue is fantastic because it comes with a I don't know if I've still got it. The download card, you can plant it. There's like seeds inside the download card, which is, I mean, it's a great idea, you know. Fantastic, one of the best electronic records that I can think of. Really, really, really amazing. What year did that come out in? This is a reissue on Sacred Bones record, but I can't remember the year it originally came out. It came with a booklet in the 70s at some point. The booklet is great too. Amazing. Amazing. One of the top 10 maybe sort of progressive pop records from France from the 70s. Metronomy by Nino Ferrer. Nino Ferrer sadly took his life, you know, in a field in the 1990s or 1980s, 1990s. A very depressed man, but this is really, really amazing. Like I made a video, like if you want to go back on my channel, I made this video on French progressive pop, and I think I've talked about this record at length. It's a very, very, very beautiful record, very melodic, very engaging. And I would recommend any Nino Ferrer from that period onwards. Blana is great. Nino and Radia is fantastic. So it's just a really, really, really essential musician from France from the 70s. Really, really essential. I mean, he started in the 60s with a string of like really comedic hits. Like there's a song called Les Cornichons, which talks about going on a picnic and you forgot to take the umbrella, and then you had to go home because it started raining. Cornichon is pickled gherkins. You know, it's a very funny song. Mirza, which is a song about a lost dog. Have you seen Mirza? You know, vous avez pas vu Mirza? Where is she gone? Very amusing songs. But then he became serious. Bernard Estardi, La Formule du Baron. Bernard Estardi is rather known as a studio musician. This is a library. This is viewed as a library record. Although I don't see this personally as a library record. Personally, I think it's just like a French pop record from the 70s, another one. But this is often classified as library music. But probably because some of this was used in film productions of the time, and La Formule du Baron was recorded in, I think, 1970. Actually 67. In 67 he built his own recording studio. There we go. But I think this is from 1970. Oh, 1969. There we go. 1969. This is a reissue on Vadim Music. It's 157 out of, I don't know, maybe 500 or something. Great sort of French pop, mixing jazz, library music, you know, what have you. Great record, La Formule du Baron. Continuing with great, maybe slightly underrated record by Dizzy Gillespie called The Source. This was recorded in France in 1973. Dizzy was already quite advanced in age. I think he was like 55 years old when he recorded this. And this is a fantastic Afro-Cuban Latin jazz, which, you know, it's not very often talked about. And it was released on a fantastic label, which I really love. When I find a piece from this label, America, always great American jazz records, Archie Shepp or Dizzy Gillespie. What have I got in America? The Art Ensemble Chicago. I've got some American records by them. This lineup features Dizzy Gillespie on trumpet, Kenny Drew on piano, Neil Henning Orsted Peterson on bass. I love Henning Osted Peterson. He's a fantastic bass player. Kenny Clark on drums and Johnny Griffin on tenor sax. So it's a great. The first song, Manteca, is a superb Afro-Latin groove. Very highly recommended. You can pick this up for not expensive, and to me, it's totally brilliant. I think it's a bit of a slept-on record. And I love Dizzy. I love some of his records. There's a record he made for Pablo called Afro-Latin something, can't remember. This is the problem when you've got like 5,000 records. Your mind just becomes mush, You can see the covers, but you can't remember the titles. But I know what I'm talking about. That's the important thing. I know what I'm talking about. It's a record I haven't visited for a long time. Barefoot Boy by Larry Coryell. Now this is the only solo Larry Coryell in my collection that I kept. I used to have more of them. Some also from the 11th House, but I got rid of a lot of them because I wasn't listening to them. But this one I think is the most accomplished one of them. It is a fantastic, sort of jazz fusion, guitar-led record on Flying Dutchman. I believe this to be an original press of it. And what's the personnel? Larry Coryell, Stephen Marcus on sax, Roy Haynes on drums, and some other people that I have no idea who they are. I'm not going to pretend. But I very highly recommend this. It's very, it's a beautiful jazz fusion record from 1971 on Flying Dutchman. You've been told. No, really. Here's one of the highlights of the ECM catalogue. Robin Kenyatta, girl from Martinique. Is she the girl from... No. Is that Robin Kenyatta or is it the girl from Martinique? Nobody knows. No, Robin Kenyatta is there. This is kind of a free avant-garde jazz record, but it gets funky as, it starts really sort of like abstract and sort of, at times a little bit hard to reach. But this is beautiful. Wolfgang Downer is on clavinets, Harold Anderson on bass, and Fred Braceful on drums. And with a lineup like this, you are going to get some killer music. This is ECM number 8. Okay, 1000. That's how the ECM catalog works. So 1001, 1002. This is a promo press too, which is great. Very, very highly recommended record. Beautiful. Here's a record that not very often played record, but this is Clifford Jordan and the Magic Triangle. This is the record that Clifford Jordan made directly after Glass Beat Games. It's on Steeplechase Records, and I think the Spiritual Jazz series that Jazzman Records are doing, I think their very latest installment is on Steeplechase, which is a nice label to pick up because got so lots of really interesting, like sort of like obscure jazz that's come out of there. Like Dexter Gordon has made some great records on Steeplechase. Clifford Jordan. There's some great record by Jackie McLean and his son. Renee McLean as well, made a great record on Steeplechase. Mary Lou Williams. So this is a great record, and the lineup is killer. Cedar Walton on piano, Sam Jones on bass, and Billy Higgins on drums. This is kind of like post-bop, hard bop, post-bop records. A little free at times. You can get this for nothing. I think it's one of these kind of very cheap records. Here is not a cheap record, but I'll tell you what, if you pay the price for this, you are guaranteed to be rewarded with one of the best listening experiences of your entire life, and you will never want to part with this record. I paid money for this, but I don't regret at all. It was worth it. This is a Brazilian copy of it. Chico Buarque. Chico Buarque Construção. As I don't speak Portuguese, I'm sure the pronunciation is vastly different to that. But I'm not going to attempt because, you know, why would I? You know, how can anybody pretend to be able to pronounce things correctly in every language? It's not going to happen. This is an stand, like, you know, okay, top 5 Brazil of all time. For me, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying for anybody else who watches this. Força Bruta, Construção by him. The Arthur Verocai record, the first one. The Clube da Esquina by Milton Nascimento and Lo Borges. And then number 5 would be the Marcos Valle, where he's underwater on the cover. That's a great record. You know, there you go. He's a top 5 Brazil. Give me 5 Brazil. This is so fantastic, so fantastic. This record, it is just like his knack for melody is unparalleled. You listen to this, you don't understand a single word of Brazilian. It doesn't freaking matter. You know, it absolutely doesn't matter. This gets you in straight away. You know, it gets your attention straight away. From 1973, I think. This is on Philips Brazilian press. I don't think it's a first press, but I don't really give a shit. Stanley Cowell, a great solo piano record called Musa, Ancestral Streams on Strata East. This is a French pressing of it. It's a French Strata East pressing. I think it's distributed by Black and Blue or something. I love this. I love, and this is a great rendition of Equipoise, which is a song that was also covered by really well by Max Roach on Members Get Weary. But he does it. He wrote the song, he wrote the tune, and it's really very beautifully played. Amazing. And he plays solo piano. He plays as well some other instruments like thumb piano, African thumb piano, things like that. Okay, not far now. Here's a kind of obscure record. This was reissued by Now Again a good many years ago. Can't remember when. The P.E. Hewitt Jazz Ensemble, Winter Winds. That's their 3rd record, and probably my favorite one out of the 3. They were a band from, I think, California, maybe LA, and they released 3 albums, and they're all sort of privately pressed. And this is kind of really enchanting kind of spiritual jazz, vocals plenty. That there's a lot of singing on this. It's jazz with a lot of a lot of singing. It's quite beautiful. I really like this, and Now Again even did a box set with all 3 albums in, you know, very lovingly reissued. But this, like the private pressing, has got no indication of nothing. There's not even a single line of note, nothing. It's just completely bare. You just have to know. Beautiful cover. Okay, here is an Australian obscure classic. Not Drowning Waving is the band. It's a band called, which was led by a guy called what's his name again? David Bridie. I was going to call him Stephen Bridie. David Bridie he is still active, very much active on the Australian scene. He formed a more popular band called My Friend the Chocolate Cake. If you're Australian and you live here, you would know those bands. Not Drowning Waving was his first project though, and I think is far more interesting for me. It fuses ambient music with kind of a little bit of new wave. This is from 1984. So you get this kind of it's very Brian Eno-esque meets, yeah, a bit of Japan maybe, like, you know, Japan, Brian Eno, and you know, with an Australian spirit, like with a sort of a Midnight Oil-esque spirit thrown in there. Fantastic record. This in Australia can get for not very much. It's not a difficult record to get, but 3 or 4 records are amazing. So I really like this. Another Pond. And last but not least is an Impulse classic, Michael White, Land of Spirit and Light, which is a great spiritual jazz. Michael White plays the violin. He was in a band called The Fourth Way. He was even on the Joe Henderson record that I was playing. Talking about before. Yes, Prince Lasher. He's on flute there. Cecil McBee, Kenneth Nash. Great record, amazing spiritual jazz record. Doesn't that? Don't you want to have this? Really? I mean, look at this. It's great. Okay. Love you all. I hope you enjoy, and leave me some comments. Talk to me. I always respond. Always. Cheers, everyone.